Hello, everybody. As I said, I'll be recording a weekly video for you all, just to catch up on any housekeeping that we've got and also answer any frequently asked questions that came in over the week. Please feel free to hit me up with any questions that you've got that you'd like discussed about a little bit more. Today, I'm joined by my cat Present here, who you can see in the background there. So look, the first thing that I wanted to speak to you about was finding out where your Zoom time is for your tutorials this week. Obviously, there's a little bit of activity to do before you join your tutorials. Again, you can find this on Blackboard in the left-hand pane near the top. There's a list, there's an item there that says tutorial times and Zoom drop-in sessions. I'd like to say thanks to those people who did drop in for our drop-in session this morning, that's being Monday morning. We had a great chat about people's short stories and about writing a little bit more in general. So please feel free to drop in on those if you'd like to have a chat to me personally about things. Now, one of the questions that came up this week, and as I said, please feel free to hit me up with others because I'd love to use this time to just chat to you about writing in general, was the resources that I mentioned in the first lecture around speculative fiction short story markets. So I thought I'd go through in a little bit more detail that. I'm just going to share my screen with you here. Now, the collection that I mentioned as being a great collection of speculative fiction short stories is this Magic for Beginners by Kelly Link. So Kelly Link here is a really fantastic writer of fantasy short stories. So pick up anything by Kelly Link, but the place where I'd recommend you starting with Kelly Link, if you've never read her before, is Magic for Beginners. It's just a really powerful collection that shows what you can do in a contemporary kind of format with genre short stories and speculative short stories in particular. So Kelly Link is the one that I mentioned in the lecture here. And here's some magazines that you can check out. If you're writing speculative fiction or fantasy, here's some good places to go. So Clark's World magazine is a great place to go because they've got a bunch of free stories. So I've picked top speculative fiction markets that also have some free stories for you to read. So Clark's World has won innumerable awards over the years. It's one of the top publishing markets for speculative fiction and fantasy short stories in the world. And as you can see, they've got a bunch of free stories to read here. So if you're wanting to get an idea about what contemporary genre short stories look like, Clark's World magazine is a great place to start. Strange Horizons, similarly, is one of the best markets in the world for short speculative fiction. And you can see here again that they have a free short story for you to read from the current issue, and they also have free short stories from prior issues there as well. So Strange Horizons, and these are of course places where you can send your own work to be published as well. These are like the absolute A-list of publishers around the world. Uncanny is also a fantastic magazine of speculative fiction short stories. And as you can see here, they've got featured fiction with every issue, so you can get a taste of what's actually in the issue as well. So you can read for free the stories here too. It would be remiss of me if I didn't give a plug to our local Australian magazine, which is Andromeda Spaceways magazine. It used to be called Andromeda Spaceways In-Flight magazine, but they rebranded. This is a fantastic place for you to submit your own work. They are, as I said, an Australian-based magazine that's got a really sort of good international following. Unfortunately, they don't have free stories on their page, but I just wanted to point them out to you. If you are writing this kind of stuff, this is a really great place to be submitting this kind of stuff as well. And finally, I also mentioned Tor.com. So Tor.com is the Rolls Royce of speculative fiction publishing in the world. So they publish books. They're a major American publisher. And if you get published with Tor, you've hit the big leagues. They've got a lot of resources on their page. They're very into online interaction. So they've got lots of things for you to read and things for you to, news to catch up on, blog entries. So here you go, 5 strategies for hiding a lost civilization. So they've got a lot of writer-oriented material as well. And as you can see here, they've got a bunch of original fiction. This is continually being updated here. And these are frequently from very, very well-known speculative fiction writers writing short stories. So this is a really great place to go as well to read some of the finest short stories. So there you go, Garth Nix is a huge name, to read some of the very best short stories that are around. So there's a handful of resources for you if you're interested in writing that kind of stuff. And look, dig in, Google speculative fiction short story magazine, and you'll get a huge number of results. If you're writing in that area, the good news is that there's many, many, many places that publish that kind of material. And there's a really, really thriving community around speculative fiction, short stories generally. Well, I hope that's been of interest to some or many of you. Again, please feel free to keep your questions coming in. I'd love to be able to answer several questions in each one of these and perhaps make them a little bit longer. But this is our first time out of the gate, so we've only got one question really for this week. But yeah, so feel free to email them to me, and I'd be only too delighted to pick them up in our weekly video here. I hope you've enjoyed the readings for this week. The One Who Walked Away from Omelas and Puppy. They're both challenging and slightly disturbing stories in their own right, but both beautifully written and so incredibly different from each other, aren't they? You can really see the versatility of the form in terms of this being a form that encompasses all sorts of different kinds of writing, all sorts of different kinds of voice, different approaches to writing, different ways the worlds are built. One reads much more like a fairy tale, the other reads like a weird, surrealistic, but still quite realistic world. So you can see how generous the short story form is, and how no matter what you want to be writing, you can probably write something really rich and interesting and intriguing in this space. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the lecture for today, which is going to be a little bit more about the short story as a form and a bit about character as well. I'll be talking to you soon, and feel free to get in touch with anything that you need. I love hearing from you. A number of people reached out this week actually just to introduce themselves to me, and I found that to be absolutely delightful. I really loved hearing that from some of you. So feel free to do that too. Okay, thanks very much. Have a great week.